Join me in my farmhouse kitchen this week where we are prepping all of the meals. My family and I are headed on a small little vacation getaway this weekend, and I want to make sure we have plenty of meals prepped ahead of time for our Airbnb so that I won't be stuck in the kitchen the whole time. But I'm hoping that today's meals inspire you to get ahead on your weekly meal prep if it's a busy season or if you have a vacation of your own coming up. All right, thinking ahead to doing all of this meal prep, I know the first thing I have to do is get all of my proteins ready. So I grabbed some ground beef from the freezer, a roast, some sausage, and some bacon so that I can make all of these meals as much as possible today and tomorrow before our trip to Arkansas. If you're anything like me, you don't usually have a day to just do a whole bunch of meal prepping and, freezing, make ahead meals. So what I like to do is either double up what I'm making for dinner or make all of the proteins at once, and then I can just use them for the meals throughout the week. So that's kind of what I decided to do this week, because not only do we have to eat on vacation, but we also have to eat leading up to vacation. So the cooking around here never ends. Tonight, while I am browning up all of this meat, I decided to make part of it into a really quick chili, and then the rest of it is going to be turned into taco meat so that we can take it with us. So the chili just sounded good to me. I feel like we're getting into that season where I know fall is right around the corner, and so that just always starts to sound so good. And I know my husband is always up for chili. And I happen to have some leftover cornbread casserole that my mom had sent with some other meals. And we just happened to have a whole lot of it left over, and we had eaten through everything else. So I was trying to reimagine how we could use the leftover cornbread casserole. And so I pressed it into a pie plate that was well greased, and then it's fully cooked. So all I had to do was top it with the chili and some cheese and pop it in the oven for maybe half an hour and let it heat all the way through and let it get just a little bit crisp around the edges. So I'll show you how that turned out for dinner here in just a moment. I apologize, I didn't have my camera going for the first part of this protein prep, so I missed getting the sausage prepped, but essentially what I did was I crumbled up some of it and cooked it that way, and then made sausage patties out of the rest of it so that we can have a quick breakfast sandwich the morning that we leave for vacation. And then the rest of it I'm going to use for some breakfast burritos to take with us and a few more things. So just stick with me. I'm going to see if we can stretch all of this as far as possible. And the final meat that I am prepping now is a roast before I go to bed. I figured if I just let the roast slow cook overnight, then sometime in the morning it'll still be on warm. I'll go ahead at that point and shred it and show you what I'm going to do with it then. We leave for vacation in 2 days, and so tonight's prep is mostly just about all of the meats and the proteins and getting all of those components together. And then tomorrow I plan on focusing more on chopping all of the veggies and prepping the actual meals that are going to go into our cooler. So let's set this and forget it for a while we finish up dinner and I show you how the rest of this comes together. so hot here lately, and I usually want a coffee of an afternoon, a little pick-me-up, but lately I've been focusing more on trying to stay hydrated. So I'm excited to share with you today's video sponsor, Ultima Replenisher. All right, let's make ourselves a little afternoon pick-me-up with Ultima. Ultima is free of sugar, carbs, and calories. They're gluten-free and keto-friendly. Let's grab a little water. Plant-based flavors and colors with no artificial sweeteners. Okay, now the hardest part is deciding what flavor I want today. I have the original variety pack here that has lemonade, grape, raspberry, cherry, pomegranate, and orange. All have been delicious thus far. And then they also sent me the tea freshers. My husband really liked these because he's more of a tea drinker, but I thought they were really nice and refreshing too. He had the lemon one, but there's also a mango dragon fruit, peach, strawberry, so many good flavors. I think I'm gonna go with the raspberry one today. There are some missing because my kids keep taking these. I'm typically not a huge fan of drink mixes because they're usually full of dyes and added sugar. A little afternoon shake. This one's really pretty. So refreshing, and they're sweet. Just like a nice little afternoon treat. That's so good. I think raspberry might be my favorite so far. That's really good. And I don't have to feel bad about having extra calories or sugar or anything like that. Just getting what my body needs and enjoying it in the process. I love the convenience of these little stick packs too, because I can just throw a couple in my bag, keep one in the car for when we're on the go, if you're traveling often, or maybe you're someone who doesn't really love to drink water. This is a great thing to just keep next to your sink and encourage you to drink more water throughout the day. If you want to give Ultima a try for yourself, I will have a link for you in the description box below. And thank you again to Ultima Replenisher for sponsoring today's video. All right, this first productive night of meal prep is winding down. Now that I've had a chance to cool down these biscuits I baked earlier, I'm tossing on the sausage patties and sticking these in the freezer. And these will be a great, quick go-to breakfast on the morning we leave. I did have a little sausage left though, and some leftover biscuits, so I'm gonna store those away in the refrigerator along with this leftover bacon. I know, leftover bacon. Is there such a thing? At least not in our house. There's not leftover bacon very often. I will either stick that in the freezer or take it with us on vacation. I haven't decided yet. Now, fast forwarding on you a bit here to the next morning, I decided to go ahead and use up that leftover sausage and biscuits and make biscuits and gravy. You guessed it. When the sausage and the biscuits are already prepped, it makes really light work for a yummy, hearty breakfast. Now, the roast has cooked through beautifully overnight and it's been sitting here on low. I'm going to move this over to my large cutting board and assemble some yummy sandwiches for our trip. Now, I've decided to go ahead and make 2 big packages of these because I figure if we have leftovers, then we could also eat them cold, take them on a little picnic, depending on where we end up. I've just decided to go really big with all of our meals. That way we have plenty of leftovers for lunches or snacks. I pretty much just don't want anyone to tell me they're hungry on vacation. I don't want to have to start all over at some point. Now, I've shared these sandwiches with you guys before, and I'll be sure to link them below. It's not a recipe of my own, but it is one that I pretty much just make from memory at this point, and maybe I've adapted it a little bit to our taste. I'm not even sure at this point, but I will definitely link it for you below. It starts out with some roast beef. I am shredding up some leftover Swiss. That's not part of the recipe, but it's just what I had left over in my fridge. That's another thing about getting ready to go on vacation. You're just kind of like cleaning out the refrigerator as you go and using up these little remnants of things. And sometimes it just really boosts the flavor in your meals. But either way, it's productive in getting the fridge cleaned out. I try to cook in that form. Sorry, Ruth is at the age now where she's knocking over my camera stand. But I'm trying to get into the rhythm of doing that every week, regardless of whether or not we are going on vacation. But cleaning out those random little tidbits out of the refrigerator and using them up, it's a great way to meal plan and save money because you just end up wasting so much less. Anyway, back to the sandwiches. So I'm starting with some sweet Hawaiian rolls, and then I have this roast beef, of course. This was an arm roast, I believe. And it's shredded apart so nicely after cooking low and slow. So it's just shredding apart so nicely here. I'm gonna layer the sandwiches with the meat and then add some mozzarella, cilantro, and onion. And then on top, the kicker is that I make a little bit of a butter sauce to go on top, and I just add in a few little ingredients, including a little bit of sugar because this is vacation and it makes them so delicious. So I'll be sure to, again, to link this down below for you and any changes that I made to that recipe so that you can also follow it. I have just a little bit of this roast beef left over, so I'm going to set it to the side, and I'm going to show you how we use a little bit of that leftover chili and a little bit of this meat to, and all the remnants from the refrigerator to make ourselves a yummy meal for tonight. So having all of this prepped ahead of time has been so nice because not only am I getting the food ready for vacation, but somehow I'm still managing to use up these leftovers to feed my family before we leave so that we're not leaving a whole bunch of things in the refrigerator and we're still fully sustained. I love making these sandwiches ahead of time, and I've even made them and frozen them before. They turn out so nicely in the oven. They just bake up perfectly every time. So they were an easy choice to do for a go-to for vacation because I knew I could freeze them, stick them in a cooler, and then just bake them. There's really no prep once we get there. Our Airbnb will have an oven, and that's all I need to finish out this meal. All right, this evening, the rain is falling outside after it has been so hot here all week. So I'm excited to see that happening. Hopefully a little cooler weather is moving in, and we're just gonna spend a little bit of time here in the kitchen getting things chopped up and finish up this prep work for vacation tomorrow morning. I'm so excited. Living on a farm, vacation means something different, I think, to us than most people. It's not like we get away for really long periods of time because there's just a lot to take care of here on our farmstead. But I'm excited that my husband and I are taking a couple days off of work and getting out of the house and far enough away that we can relax for a couple days and just enjoy our kids and maybe a little bit of an adventure in Arkansas. We don't have a whole lot planned, but I just know that we're going to enjoy the relaxing Airbnb experience and let the kids play in the pool. And just waking up without all of the added responsibilities that come with a home and a farm. I'm sure you know what I mean. Just waking up and knowing that you don't have to do those particular chores. And now all the food is going to be prepped too. So this is going to be great. Now tonight I am chopping up, as you see, a whole bunch of potatoes. I'm making what my family calls hash, and it's just an easy potato and sausage mixture with some peppers and onions. So I'm grabbing a few of those things that I can find in the garden and putting those into bags prepped completely. So all I will have to do is throw this out on like a sheet pan at the Airbnb and do a sheet pan dinner with it. It can also be done in a skillet, as you'll see, so just a couple different ways to have it ready to go. This is such an easy meal, but there is a lot of chopping prep work, so I think in the future I might just do this ahead of time as well because it was such a good thing to have made ahead. This is also a really filling meal, and I feel like it a little bit goes a long ways. I actually ended up making way too much of this, so we were able to eat on it multiple times. But again, just such an easy, simple meal to throw together. So I'm starting out with regular potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions, peppers. I ended up throwing in a few banana peppers from the garden too. And at the very last minute, ended up looking for a few bell peppers from the garden. As you'll see, those were a last minute addition. Now, to get them prepped for vacation or for a make-ahead meal, what I'm doing is I'm putting them into the Ziploc bags so that they'll be, easy to pack in the cooler. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in all of the avocado oil and the seasoning, and that way it's completely prepped and it'll kind of coat those potatoes to where they won't brown right away. I will say these kept pretty well in the freezer. I froze them before we left. That way they would be a little harder for the ride in the cooler. And then they stayed really good, but we did have some potatoes left by the time we got home from vacation that still hadn't been cooked that started to turn pretty brown. So if you're going to make this ahead of time, I would say only do it, maybe 2 days ahead of time at the most. But if you want to toss them in the freezer, it seemed like that really kept them well. Just like any other frozen potato, they don't brown quite as quickly, especially tossed in that oil. And then it was easy to just toss them into a skillet, as you'll see later in the video on how we prepared this at the Airbnb. Now I'm just giving them a toss and kind of adding a little more seasoning as I go just to make sure it's fully coated well and not just all in one space there. But I really liked throwing it into a bag here. Honestly, it was such a mess-free way of doing this. I usually just throw everything out onto parchment paper as I go and kind of spread it out with my hands and of course rub in all of the oil and the seasonings. So I guess my hands get a little bit more messy when I'm just making this on a regular weeknight, but I really enjoyed having this prepped ahead of time. I may have to try this again just on a busy week where we need something prepped and all I'd have to do is then toss it in the oven. I really love those make ahead meals where you can just prep and have everything ready to go. All right, it's the last evening before we leave on vacation. So again, I'm trying to clean out the refrigerator with all of the leftover remnants of things. And we have a few things left over from our meal prep from the week, which includes a little bit of leftover chili and a little bit of that roast beef. So I'm mixing up a quick coleslaw here, and I plan on putting this all together in a loaded baked potato for the evening and just kind of setting out all of the things and letting everyone load up their potato how they'd like. And while I have out all these ingredients that I was making the coleslaw with, I thought I'm going to go ahead and mix together a nice little cilantro cream sauce to also take on vacation to go with that taco meat we prepped. So I'm essentially just putting some mayo and sour cream or Greek yogurt together and a few seasonings, and then I'm going to throw in some lime juice and the cilantro leaves, hit it with the immersion blender, and this will be ready to go. Now this is like a creamy sauce that could be put over the coleslaw if I wanted to add that to my taco bowl on vacation, or it could just be added as a condiment on top of anybody's like taco salad. So either way, it's a winner in my book. And with these being in jars, to me, it makes it really easy just to pack these in the bottom of the cooler and ice them down. It'll be easy for transport. And dinner is done, my friends. This is one of my favorites. I gotta make this more often, but a loaded baked potato with barbecue meat and coleslaw on top, that really hit the spot. Now, of course, something always has to go wrong. Something happened with our freezer the morning we were leaving. So that's why our refrigerator is sitting here all wonky as I load up the cooler. But I did want to share that I put as many items as I could in the freezer the night before we left. That way packing them in the cooler was simple and everything was already really cold even before we were able to stop for ice. So that's just a quick tip. If you're going to be traveling with a cooler, freeze those meals ahead and they can thaw out on the way to your location. Now, the kids are always so excited to check out a new Airbnb, and we're just getting settled in here for a weekend of fun in the pool, or maybe the kitchen cabinets if you're Ruth. She loved exploring too. And Dan helped me get our first meal together here. They didn't have a single cookie sheet in this Airbnb, so it was off with the skillet meal, which was perfectly fine. This hash is probably even more delicious in a skillet if I'm being honest, but I'm usually just lazy. So I paired this for my plate with some fresh garden tomatoes, cottage cheese, and those homemade pickles I showed you earlier. Now, the first full day of vacation for us was cool and dreary and rainy. I couldn't believe it. The beginning of August here, and it felt like fall. It was almost September-like in the air, which was also glorious at the same time, but it did kind of put a damper on as much swimming as we were hoping to do. So we did a little bit of adventure seeking instead and visited some areas that were really pretty. And of course, my wild kids had fun in any outdoor scene where they could jump in the water, splash around, and throw rocks. They're just happy campers no matter what. But it was fun to get out and see some new sights here in Arkansas. I thought I would show you how our tacos came together. Now, the exciting part for vacation tacos is to do what we call walking tacos. My boys have been asking for these, but you basically buy the fun little individual bags of chips, crush them up, and then put all of the fixings inside of the bag. And that's what makes it a walking taco. You can walk around with it and eat it if you want. So that was the exciting thing. Dan and I just decided to go ahead and have regular taco salads, but add some Frito chips, and it felt extra special for vacation. Well, I know for sure that vacation did not last long enough. It was so fun to get away with my little family and just enjoy each other. And all of the time we spent in the kitchen ahead of time was well worth it on vacation. Love a good make-ahead meal. And I'm already taking notes for how I can implement this a little bit more as we move into these busy fall months ahead once school is in session. Whether you're heading into a vacation or just heading into a busy week, I hope that today's video gave you some dinner inspiration. Let me know in the comments below which meal was your favorite or what you're looking forward to trying, and I hope to see you back here again very soon.